bring to order the public budget hearing for the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation. We'll have a pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Please be seated. Thanks for coming tonight. We have two meetings. The first meeting is, as I said, on the public budget hearing, and then the second will be our regular meeting. So please let the roll call reflect that all board members are present tonight, and we will amend the agenda to take all of the consideration of 2020 to 2021 budget together, which would mean the 2021 proposed budget, the 2021 capital projects plan, and the 2020 bus replacement plan. At this time, I'll turn it over to Matt Irwin, our business manager.
How you doing, guys? I put up there a copy of the Form 3 and then another copy of the bus replacement and capital projects plan. All three of those were submitted to Gateway back on August 24th. The capital project plan and bus replacement were as well. All three of those documents were also uploaded to the school website as well. I gave you guys another comparison of that chart, and I know you guys are kind of flipping through the pages, so I'll kind of give you a second to get there. But a comparison of the 2020 budget to the 2021 budget. And again, I outlined some things off to the side that we use to help us along the way with creating that 2021 budget. I'm starting off with the education fund as far as the fiscal year 21 funding formula that the state put out. We use that to help us with the education fund. The max levy growth quotient, which is 4.2% for the operations fund. And then our looking at best practices using 85% of previous year AV for our debt service fund, and then working through things with the DLGF rep, as well as working with Paul Flutter from Administrative Assistance and Chad Blacklock from Stiefel to make sure that we had everything in line for that. And again, I just outlined the numbers there so that you could see those differences that were on there. The AV that was submitted to the county by the county to Gateway did show significant growth in AV, which is very promising and always good news. Bus replacement plan, as mentioned earlier, is posted. We plan to replace a couple of buses each year on our current fleet. So this is a normal replacement cycle, and that allows us to keep our fleet in good working order and provide for safe transit for our students. The capital projects plan is also posted as well, and this plan incorporates items of possible need across the corporation that exceed $10,000. We have met with, and at various times throughout the year with Audrey, Arnold, Rick, all the directors, different people of that nature that are important in the planning processes and know the various needs of our corporation to make sure that we are planning for those things as well as possible, and we have those things there. So with that, this is what I have. You guys have any questions?
Does the board have any questions? Hearing none.
Mr. Irwin, I got a quick question. So on the capital projects, the 5 items or 6 items that are listed there, that's just a blueprint, right? Because I know it shows some different technology items but we're going to vote tonight to upgrade all the faculty and pick up the rest of the kids tonight, right? Later on this evening?
Yes.
So these numbers could go down next year.
Yeah, it depends. And so we're trying to work on getting on a tech replacement cycle as well so that we don't get into the process of having to make larger size purchases and we can get on a normal replacement cycle that's smaller in nature.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, are there any visitors here this evening who are here who would like to give a public comment on either the proposed budget, the capital projects plan, or the bus replacement plan?
We did have speakers. I think all of those speakers were here for the regular board meeting, but I could be corrected on that. Were any of you wanting to speak during this part of the meeting? Okay.
All right, so no visitor comments on the budget. I guess then this meeting is adjourned for the public hearing on the budget for 2020-2021. Okay. Now we will move on, and I'll bring to order the regular meeting for September of 2020. Begin with the roll call. All four members are present this evening, and so then we'll move into visitor comments. If you have comments for the regular meeting, we ask that you come to the microphone and state your name. And it looks like Mr. Irwin may have a list.
Yeah, I got a list.
Okay.
First person was Lauren Smith.
What my notes? Jeez. So hello, my name is Lauren Smith. I think we've spoken before. I want to start by reiterating that I know what a difficult position you guys are in when it comes to COVID and really appreciate everything you're doing. I sent an email on Saturday, I think, to all of you, and I really appreciate Dr. Sanders getting back to me, and we're going to meet this week so we can share a little bit more, so I appreciate that. I do want to reiterate the main purpose of the email. If we can't get back in school a little bit more, I think we need to really consider maybe doing something a little bit different with the regular schedule. I know a lot of students, I think you'll hear this from a lot of parents, are really struggling in ways that they haven't previously struggled to get the material, understand the material, keep up with it. Because essentially what we're doing is allowing 1 day of instruction, like actual in-person instruction a week, and it's just not working very well. At least for my family, it's not working very well. So I would ask that you can consider maybe if we are going to do a plan where we stay on a hybrid schedule, that we consider what else we can do to help the students be more successful in that time. And I think that's all I had. So I just want to thank you again for listening. And
Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, the next person is Michelle Garrett.
I apologize, I won't be making as much eye contact. I haven't had much time to prepare this today. First off, like back in the spring, the goal to flatten the curve was closing businesses, schools closed, but jobs that were deemed essential were not put on hold. The essentiality of education should actually not be put on hold either. Education is an essential aspect of our society. Teachers and staff of our educational facilities are without argument essential. Our students getting a better education is essential. They are the future of our society when we are much older and beyond all of our days here on earth. I do ask that you please send 9th through 12th grade back to in-person the 4 days per week, along with the K through 8th graders, which I was pleased to hear that. I have a student in 4th grade and a student that is a freshman. The high school students deserve to be getting as quality instruction once the second 9 weeks starts, as the K through 8th grade will now be having in person. I've spoken a lot with my freshman son and some of his friends and parents. Their big concern, and this mainly came from the students, was the lack of in-person explanations, discussion, and question answering that a teacher can give while the material is being presented. There is quite a delay when they have a question that needs an immediate response, and there are due dates to their material. And I know the teachers and staff are trying. And I appreciate, all the effort put into the online learning. However, it's definitely not as good a quality. And I would hate for our high school kids who are prepping themselves to go out into the real world to not be getting as good a quality of education for one whole semester. That's pretty big. What else? Oh, I was just listening to Dr. Box talking during Holcomb's press conference. And she did say, high school students make up 19%. However, she also mentioned that K through 12 levels are riding stable since July. It's mainly the 18 to 22-year-olds that has increased. Looking at the stats as well, I'm sure you've all seen them, the university level is off the charts. K through 12, yes, high school's a little higher, But across the state, I know a lot of the levels that they're wanting to keep in person is 5% and under. And the high school is still, all across the state, is still averaging that 5% and under. What else?
That's the 3 minutes. Do you want to give longer than the 3 minutes?
How many speakers do we have tonight?
We have, I think, 7.
We'll give them 5 minutes tonight.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, that's fine. I've got all kind of scribbles here. Exposure or not will happen as other aspects of life have continued full force in many areas. Some that are not essential, and of course, I mentioned before, education is essential. I think the college numbers are actually what are substantial, not K through 12th grade. I think that's about all I scribbled on here. I summed it up pretty well. Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person is Mary Blessinger. Sure. Sean Waters? No. Becca Anderson?
Hi, my name is Becca Anderson. I have 2 children in this school district. One is in 7th grade, one is a 9th grader. I'm very thankful that my 7th grader gets to go back to school 4 days a week after fall break and whenever school opens back up. So very thankful for that. And I am thankful for all the work that you are all doing. I know that, as we keep saying, we're all looking forward to living in precedented times again rather than living in unprecedented times. I do want to speak to the high school side of things. I was very disappointed to see that they were going to continue the hybrid schedule, and I'm asking you tonight to reconsider that. As Michelle said, teachers are essential. Back in March, nurses had to go back to work, doctors had to go back to work, plumbers, electricians, the Walmart employees, the grocery store employees. They had to go back to work and return to work at a time in this so-called pandemic that it was very unknown. And we're now in September, nearing the end of September and into October. And I think that we've reached a point where, as Michelle said, I feel that teachers need to be considered and the staff should be considered essential employees, and that our students are very much hurting because they're not back in school full time. As the speaker before me said, the problem is that they are basically teaching themselves. They see their teachers 1 day per week in the junior high and high school levels, and that averages out to, for my daughter goes Monday and Tuesday. For the Monday day of the week that she's in school, that was 6 times that she saw her Monday teachers and 7 times that she saw her Tuesday teachers in this first 9 weeks. That's not enough time in front of a teacher to be able to digest algebra and biology and geography. These are courses that are hard, especially for a 14, 15-year-old student, and she's struggling. My freshman is struggling. For her biology class, I think we can all agree that none of us would ever want to go back and take biology again. In her biology class, she goes on Mondays and Tuesdays, and a friend of hers goes on Tuesdays or Thursdays and Fridays, and they are basically teaching each other. They're not in front of their teacher enough to digest the information and to absorb the information that they need, and they are struggling hard right now. And so being in person with their teachers is of utmost essential priority, in my opinion. There's a lot of homework. There's a lot for them to do. The workload is overwhelming. I'm most concerned about my daughter's mental health. I feel like we are doing everything we can to preserve their physical health. The risk of this virus has proven to not be as dangerous as we thought that it was going to be. And we are now at a place, a tipping point with these kids, that we could be doing what we can right now to aid them in their mental health. You're dealing with teenagers. We've all probably either had them or we've been one, and we know what being a teenager is like, the emotions that come along with that. They have been cooped up and not living their lives since March. It is time to get those high schoolers back into the classroom along with the rest of the school corporation so that their mental health can be preserved and that we can do everything that we can in our power to give them the best education possible. Michelle also mentioned that the high schoolers right now, they're working on keeping their GPAs high so that they can get scholarships that they want to get. They want to get into the colleges that they want to attend. Their grades are I've talked to multiple parents, multiple students, who their students' grades are hurting because of this hybrid, only because of this hybrid schedule. And if they were in person, in class with their teachers more often, it would allow them to get their grades back up and allow them a better chance. Students around our community in other school corporations are back in person, and those students are getting a greater advantage to our kids because they're in class and our kids are not. And we are doing our students a huge disservice by not allowing them to be in person. Nothing about 2020 makes sense, so my hope tonight is that you will make this part a small part of what you can do in your decision, that you can allow that to make sense. So much of it doesn't, I get that. But we can give them the education that they deserve, and that we can give them the chance to be able to make some sense of all of this madness. So thank you for your time tonight. You are appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becca.
Melissa Wickers.
It's Melissa Wickens. That's okay. I have a sixth grader and a senior, and I think I know most of all of you anyway. But first, I just want to reiterate the same thing that everyone else has said. We just really appreciate all the hard work and the tough decisions, the tough spot that you're in. I would not want to be in your position. I just want to say that. But I do feel like I need to advocate for my kids and for lots of my friends' kids. In fact, I had planned on doing a bunch of research and giving a bunch of statistics and all of that, and I didn't have time to do that, but I did just put a quick Facebook poll out and asked what other people's opinions were. And there's so many, I can't give them to you in the 3 to 5 minutes, so I just typed them up. I'd like to give those to you. I don't know if we can pass those out. But this is just a small representative of multiple conversations I've had over the past weeks and other Facebook posts I've seen over the past weeks. There are definitely a percentage that like the hybrid. I included those as well, and it's working well for them, but I would say the overwhelming majority, it's not working, and I would just reiterate everything everybody's said so far. I know, and I know that Becca had put a similar poll on her Facebook page today as well, and I did not even get to include all those. I didn't have time to type all of those up, but they were very similar answers with very similar themes to what you've been hearing tonight and what I've typed up for you. Also, a small percentage, I already said that, sorry. So the majority are struggling, the overwhelming majority are struggling. And I think the thing that gets me the most is the ones that typically are AB students that are having failing grades and are truly struggling with the hybrid plan for all the reasons that have already been mentioned. But they're also struggling mentally, emotionally, not just educationally. And that is a much more emergent crisis for these kids right now than the virus is for them, in my opinion. It seems, like Becca said, we've seen that the virus is not affecting children as it is older adults. And so for them, that's not an emergent thing. But getting their grades, getting their education, having the social interactions, those are very emergent. We are seeing a huge increase in mental health crises. There's been an increase in the suicide hotline, and a lot of those are with younger age groups. I heard a pediatrician in Kansas say this is a second pandemic that we are creating for these kids, as she is seeing a huge rise in mental and health crises and suicides. Monroe County is no exception to that. I've talked to many social workers. Kids are being affected from very little from the virus itself. I think at this point we have to look at the bigger picture and start seeing the risk of keeping them out of school as a much larger risk than the benefit of keeping them out is. And other than just letting you read all of the comments and the feedback from the parents, they asked me to be their voice, and so I said I would, and that was the best way I could figure out to do it. I'd love to read them all to you, but please take the time to read them over. I think it's, as I said, very representative of the larger whole of how students in this corporation are feeling right now. And there's some quotes from kids too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Marcy Edwards.
Hello, I was here at the last meeting. Marcy Edwards. I came to the first one to basically, I had sent my email asking you to reconsider the initial decision that was made to keep the kids at home versus sending them to school 5 days a week. And like I said last time, I just wanted to put a face to the email. I have 3 kids in the school system, one at the high school, one at the junior high, and one at EPS. And I am excited and I'm glad for my 2 younger ones to be going back 4 days a week. But I'm here tonight to ask you to reconsider the decision for the high school students to do the same. I think they absolutely need to go at least the 4 days.
I'm not sure if that's you in the microphone.
Definitely want them going 4 days a week.
Step up a little closer, maybe that'll work. Getting some tech guidance from the back.
But preferably, I think 5 days a week. I don't think that there's any real reason why we can't send them like we are the other students. So a couple of points. I'm going to sound like a broken record because it's already been said, but I do believe teachers are essential. I had a conversation with a faculty member at the junior high who had mentioned that they were afraid at the beginning to bring the teachers right back in. Some of these teachers are scared and this and that, to which I told him I didn't have a choice. You know, I had to work my job just as a lot of other people, essential workers, had to work. So my choice was go back to work or lose your job. So I hope that that fear is not driving some of our decision. Because he said, well, we already have a shortage of teachers. And what if we tell them they all have to come back? To me, that's not a valid reason for 2,500 families, you know, to make for them that we might lose some of these teachers. If that's their choice, that's their choice. I had the same choice to make. A lot of people have faced that difficult decision. So I don't think that should be any kind of reason to not bring them back. Same thing, in that same conversation, the faculty members had started to say we're all in this together. And I stopped them mid-sentence, please don't tell me we're all in this together, because right now, what's happening is if we don't get these kids back in this school, in the high school, we are going to widen that gap because there are other schools going back 5 days a week. And I think that that will show. This education is not as good of a quality as if they were going 5 days a week like these other schools. And it's not going to be we're all in this together. It's going to be that they are behind other schools and students who have the opportunity to go 5 days a week and get a better education. My last point is that right now, my high school student is under quarantine. So she had a teammate who tested positive. I got a phone call, and she's on a 14-day quarantine. And here's my argument for that. I'm upset about the quarantine, I guess, too, because we go and we do the contact tracing, okay? We're wearing these masks and we're following all these rules all the time, including at soccer practices. When those kids aren't playing, they're on the sidelines, they're wearing their masks. The health department could not answer my question as to, are these masks working or they're not? Because if you are going to fight that these masks are working, then why are we doing still contact tracing and keeping 30 students at home right now because one person was positive? And she did not have a valid answer for me. She's saying now, well, we don't know what kind of masks they're wearing, and we don't know if they're wearing them all the time. So that's one of my other concerns, is that if we're doing all these things and following all these guidelines, why are we still quarantining so many kids? And can you really be sure they were face-to-face contact without the masks? Okay. And again, I worry about their mental health. I said it last time, I'll say it again. I think we're creating a bigger problem than we are a solution. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy.
Is Mary Blessinger here?
Sorry.
Make sure I made it back.
I also spoke the last time that we were here, and I think my comment the last time is that can we go in line with the other schools that are more like our demographics? And I understand, you know, we had the 9-week plan, and it was kind of going to stay that way. So I left there feeling that, you know, maybe after the 9 weeks that we probably would go a little further. And I want to thank you so much for sending my junior high kid back to school, because he definitely needs to be in there at least those 4 days a week. My other child is a senior, and he is doing okay, but he's got a lot of AP courses. He's filling out for scholarships. He's got a lot going on, just the same as what he would in school, but there's many things that he's doing now at home. He has hardly any downtime. It's a lot of busy work. I'm not saying he wouldn't be busy even if he was in school, but I do think he's not the same person at home as he was. I said that weeks before this email even came out. He's not been the same Andrew, and I've tried to sit down and talk with him. I've tried to sit down and find out, you know, what's going on. And one of the comments he made to me, he said, "Mom, it's just not the same. School's not the same. Lunch isn't, you know, it's not even fun even being there when we are there. Lunch isn't the same. The same kids aren't there. He's involved in football. He can't, his last name's B, so on Friday nights." I mean, just a multitude of these are all minor things. But I don't want to repeat I agree with everything else that everyone has said. The only question that I have is, and I was sorry, Mr. Sanders, I was a little disappointed in the email, just because of the fact I was hoping that maybe there would be somehow that we could get a poll, or, you know how we send out school surveys, because there are options if people do want to keep their kids at home. I understand that. I've seen both sides of it. So could we let those people keep on doing the e-learning, and then the kids that want to go back have at least the 4 days a week? And I think it is a good idea. Do the 2 days in, clean real good, do the other 2 days. I feel like a lot of this and Marcy was talking about the mask, and I have on this uniform, I can't, with my IU health values, I cannot tell you what I see or what I have seen or haven't seen, but I know I don't know how much our contact tracing, how much detail they give you in that. But a lot of the people that get this, I'm on my boys all the time, wash your hands. Don't share your water bottle. Don't share your food. Even if they don't drink alcohol, but us, when we go out, you don't share those kind of things with anybody anymore, even in our own household, because if somebody gets it, that's one of the number one ways you can get it. I know it was at first, a lot of airborne, and I'm not saying it's not, but a lot of those things, our kids, there's gonna be kids that are gonna make those mistakes, whether they're in school or out of school. And I don't know that keeping them out of school is gonna keep them safe from getting it. And I think that it's more important for them to be in school, to have this instruction, to have that for their mental health, but also in him and his harder classes. I think sometimes he needs that in one-on-one instruction. And I didn't know if there was a way, since a school survey, if it's too late for that, or I don't know. I'm not educated on that to know if there's a way to put a poll out there, like we fill out our school survey and get an opinion, or if that's even something that we're allowed to do. I was hoping there'd be a better showing here tonight, and there's not, because I have heard a lot of people say they want their kids back in school, but this doesn't fare well for us. But everybody that spoke, I agree with everything that was said. So, and I do appreciate everything you guys are doing, and I wish there was a different alternative, but there's not, and I just really wish we could try it the way you're doing it with the younger kids. So, I don't know what to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's all the people that I had on the list for tonight. There's no other names marked on here for public comment unless someone else has changed their mind.
I found something else I could add, but I don't know if I'm allowed to speak in.
Is it brief?
Yes, here.
Okay.
Something I forgot. I have several family members and many more friends than that work in school corporations in Indianapolis and around Indianapolis. It's a much more populated area. One is a school board member, one is a principal, and one of them is also a Teacher of the Year recipient. They are going back to school 5 days a week. As I mentioned, it's much more populated. And they said it's actually going fantastically. So that's a positive, I think. A hopeful comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and this would include approval of minutes of our August 17th, 2020 regular school board meeting, our financial reports, which includes the treasurer's report for August of 2020, and Mr. Durnall will tell us our claims.
The claims for this pay period is 8/13 of 2020, $3,466.10 for mini payroll. Gross wages on August 14, 2020, $54,824.41. For gross wages mini payroll on August 17, 2020, $2,538.46. For gross wages on 8/28/2020, $567,085.63. For claims prepay 8/1/20 through 8/31/20 is $786,977.26. For claims regular vouchers for 9/21/2020 is $332,533.22. And for Forest Hill claims on 9/22 of 2020 is $3,670.89 for a grand total of $2,251.95.97.
Thank you, sir. Our donations this month is $250 from the Megan May Agency, $50 from Melanie DeFore, and $21.25 for Melinda Turner, and that would be for the Lunch Angel account. We also have personnel resignations, retirements, renewals, leaves, and terminations, D1 through 6, and personnel appointments and transfers, E1 through 41. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? None? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our next item is our business manager's report. So, Mr. Irwin?
I put extra copies of the cash flows up there on the desk for you. I'm going to start over in the education fund as I usually do. Our ADM count day was put back in place, and with it, the normal schedule for payment reconcilement. So I kept that trend with what I presented last month, showing that for November and December, having a take back there. Focusing on where we project to be at the end of the year, we are going to be close to ending near a month's worth of cash balance, which is important, not only for cash flow purposes, but for maintaining financial stability. We've monitored this and managed this fund very closely, and we'll continue to do that as we navigate through the year end. And we're very pleased with where we stand at this point in the year in the education fund. The debt service fund, I did provide that, even though there was nothing of note this month, as we had no receipts or expenditures during the month of August in the debt service fund. We've already made all of our obligation payments in the debt service fund for this year. And in the operations fund, it stayed very consistent thus far. Year end is looking good, but it may shift around a bit as we continue to focus on keeping up on the needs of the buildings and the COVID precautions that we are taking. And then the other normal operational needs that of the corporation obviously haven't stopped all the while this is going on. So I said, all in all, August was a good month for us. We are in a good place, and so we'll continue to keep you guys in the know as those things continue to unfold.
Any questions for Mr. Irwin?
Mr. Irwin, do you know what our current count is of our student enrollment in virtual academy and in school?
Together, we're going to probably end up somewhere around 2,600 would be my guess. And
Combined.
so we're at the point of submission, so this last Friday, but we still have to work out the count with the way that data pulls over to the DOE, and then the way some of the student information crosses over from Harmony, and whether or not other school corporations sometimes still try to claim a kid if somebody were to move in. And so we have to kind of sort out all of the things with that, but the final number should end up right around 2,600.
So we have about 85% for in-school and 15% for virtual. It's held pretty steady. So I would expect that to stay pretty close to that percentage.
How does that compare to last year in the spring?
As far as total?
Total count.
Yeah. Well, we are definitely down, as most school corporations are. Given the situation we're under, we did have a larger number of parents choose to homeschool, more than normal. And once again, all the decisions that parents are making, it's very understandable. And when I talk to the parents, they're just doing what's they think is best for their son or daughter, and we have to respect that. And we know that when this is all over, we want every one of them back, and we definitely understand their situation. So, but the virtual school program has gone very well. We have some excellent teachers leading the way there.
Thank you very much. Our next item is the debt services additional appropriation hearing. And so we'll begin with the discussion. And Mr. Irwin?
Yeah, so the additional appropriation for debt service was $350,000. And these are not new dollars that are being generated and spent. These are dollars that we had within our cash balance. And the reason this additional appropriation was necessary was something that we've talked about the last couple of months, is with a couple of our older school loans that we had back from 2009 and 2010 had government subsidies on it. And due to the COVID shutdown, the government was not processing those subsidies in a timely manner and did not pay those subsidies on time, which meant that we had to make the full payment on those debts. And so we did make those full payments. And so in doing so, we needed to do an additional appropriation to stay within the guidelines of the DLGF to make sure that we had the appropriated funds. And so we simply are going through this process to prove to the DLGF that we're following their laws and that we have the cash on hand to make these payments. We have received note from the IRS that says that they are processing those subsidies. And so those should be put in place and hopefully be credited back to our account by the time January rolls around.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, are there any members of the public who would like to comment on the debt services additional appropriation? Seeing none, this is an action item, correct?
It is.
Yes, okay. So do I have a motion to approve the additional appropriation of $350,000 to the debt services fund?
I'd move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Our next item is consideration of items to be surplus on our online auction. Dr. Sanders.
You know, Matt's done most of the work tonight. I may have to pay him a little extra bonus. But very seriously, I just want to recognize Matt Irwin, our business manager, for all the hard work he's done on the budget and in so many other ways. We've had a goal here over the last couple of years to try to do business better, and we are doing that with Matt. So I just wanted to thank him publicly before the board. In terms of consideration of items to be in surplus, before we can discard anything that's not usable anymore for the school corporation, we have to declare it surplus, and then it goes on the auction and can be auctioned at that point. And so we have a number of items that the board has seen in your board packet that I would like to recommend that we declare surplus. Those items would be furniture, a lot of books, some play equipment, things like that.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Jerry, can you just let people know where they can find that list?
Yes, just go to our website and there'll be a link for the auction.
Awesome.
Do we have a
Okay.
date yet?
I do not know the date.
Okay.
All right, our next item is the consideration to purchase student Chromebooks. This will be in two stages. First, we'll need to approve a resolution to do so, and then we'll actually need to approve the purchase itself. So, Dr. Sanders, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Who would have thought a year ago we would be doing what we have to do right now? And although it's always been a goal for RBB to eventually get to one-to-one for our electronic devices and for all students to have a Chromebook, we were just really down to the fifth grade level, and we were working our way to the lower grades. But given the situation we're in, although we're trying to get the students back in school, for now we'll be doing e-learning on Wednesdays. Hopefully everything continues to improve, but there's always that chance, as we saw last spring, where things were worse. So we really don't know what will happen in the future, and we want to be prepared for all students to be able to have a device. So far this year, we've been loaning out the Chromebooks that the students use at school, but we want to be able to have a Chromebook for each student that they could take home in the event that we would have to extend e-learning. And so going through the whole bid process, it's very important to go through the bid process, but in these unusual times, we wanted to try to expedite that process to be able to purchase those devices as quickly as possible. And so we need a resolution to be able to move forward.
We'll take that resolution first then. Do we have a motion on the resolution authorizing a special purchasing method for the Chromebooks?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on the resolution? All those in favor say
Mr. Are we
aye.
going
Sorry,
to,
Dean?
put the other resolution in with this, or we have to do that separately?
There's a resolution for
For
this
each-
and
each
for the
thing?
next one.
Each one.
Yes,
Right.
Each one has
Do
to-
that again
okay.
for the laptops.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So the resolution has carried. Dr. Sanders, do you have anything more on the purchase itself?
Yes, I'd like to ask Rick Roughton, our Director of Technology, to come forward and speak about the purchase of the Chromebooks.
Evening, everybody. Thanks for putting us on the agenda tonight. The student Chromebooks, we have done a quick bid process, quote process for Chromebooks, and we submitted to 4 individuals, plus opened it up to others to bid. And out of the 4, only 1 came back with a bid or a quote for for the Chromebooks, and that has resulted in a cost of $230,988. That will be for approximately 600 Chromebooks for the purchase. A lot of that was due to some wonderful grants and money that came into us to allow us to move forward. So that was wonderful to see people step up and give us additional fundings to move forward with the purchase of Chromebooks to get our students more in the electronic time frame that we're trying to get to a 1-to-1 ratio. The Chromebooks, again, they're a Dell Chromebook 3100. Not much to say about a Chromebook. It's a nice little device, easy for the students to carry and take home. Easy for us to manage and maintain updates on, and it is also what we use during state testing and other tests that are required to keep the students, iLearn, iReady, some of the others that we have to maintain, so they make it real easy for us to do. Again, there's not much I can say about a Chromebook, so I'm not for sure what, if you guys have any questions for me.
Do we have a motion for the purchase of approximately 600 Chromebooks, Dell's 3100, for $230,988?
I'd move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions?
Mr. Howden, I just had a couple quick questions. So this 600 is for, when you first came on about a year and a half ago,
Just a year.
ago, we made a major purchase then. For what grade levels? That was 5 through 12?
That was 5 through 12. That was before Rick, actually.
That was before you, okay. And then this would take care of, will everybody first grade through 12 or K through 12 have a Chromebook now?
It will be very close.
Very close, okay.
It depends on what our number count goes to. We could be really yes, and then if we go above and beyond our, current count, then we may be a few short, but we're going to do everything we can to get it all the way down to first grade.
Okay.
And that's rolling some of the older units down, so we can make
Okay.
sure we can get a full 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay, is there any surplus value for all the old ones we have?
The ones that we're going to keep and roll down will be ones that have a life expectancy from Google for auto updates.
Okay.
We're going to make sure that we take the ones that will bid us as far as possible, and the ones that have already expired, we will come back to you as a surplus list to carry those out. But we want to keep everything we can as long as we can to get the longevity of them.
Okay. And then you said the projected date was January?
That's what I'm hearing from the vendors and for receiving them, but we're hoping that we'll get them in before Christmas, and then we can work on them and start to get them rolled out at the first of the year is our hope.
Okay.
And this will be paid for through the GEARS grant, general obligation bond. The Monroe County Community Foundation gave us a nice grant, and also some Title IV grant dollars.
And the GEARS grant was part of the CARES, was that part of the CARES?
It's different.
The GEARS grant was specifically, It's CARES Act dollars that were released by the governor to schools K-12 and higher ed. And so we had to submit a proposal that GEAR grant was specifically geared towards devices or hotspots or something of that nature, or teacher PD. And so we submitted a plan and partnered with the IU School of Education to get more dollars than what we actually received. They came back and they funded the device portion of our proposal, which is something that we're obviously very grateful for, which played a role in us being able to make this purchase.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is consideration to purchase staff laptops, and again, we'll take a resolution vote and then on purchase. So, Dr. Sanders?
Yes, really the same reasons as we mentioned for needing the resolution for the Chromebooks. We also need that to be able to purchase the laptops for the teachers. This is a long overdue step for us. And so our teachers need the right tools to do the job. And so I'm really excited that we're going to be able to finally get this done for them. So I recommend approval of the resolution.
We have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing special purchasing method for staff laptops.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on this resolution? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now on to the purchase of the staff laptops.
Once again, Rick is going to speak to that.
All right, so pretty much in the same order, we did send out for information for requests for pricing, along with open invitation to anybody that wanted to submit. Again, we have 4 that we submitted to directly, and then no one submitted anything openly. 2 of the 4 came back with price quotes. One was the AME Group out of Bloomington, Indiana, and the other one was Paragon Micro out of Chicago, Illinois. The price comparison for the laptops from AME was $515,493. From Paragon Micro, $359,997. These 2 devices that they listed was from AME Group, Lenovo ThinkPad. Paragon Micro was Dell Latitude, and both very comparable, but we felt that comes down to a price, but Paragon Micro also included a built-in protection plan with the Dell Latitudes, and still they were able to come in below the AME Group. As much as I would love to do business with someone local, I've already reached out to him because he asked us and talked to him about it, and but unfortunately Lenovo couldn't do anything more than what they presented to AME Group. But we have taken into consideration over the last year what the teachers need and what to move forward. So we have picked the product that is best suited for our teachers and carrying it out for at least 5 years on the ownership of these devices through longevity and wear and tear. So we've looked at all that from how they withstand services. A lot of teachers didn't have cameras built into their laptops. These have cameras built in. These also have a nice microphone so they can speak into the system for Zoom meetings and do the recordings. There's also nice, bright resolution screens so they can actually see what they're doing instead of the dim ones that have started to fail, and you can turn the brightness all the way up if you want, but they still look like they're about 2% of power. We've also looked at the keyboard layout, so they're getting a full 15.6-inch device with the numpad on the side and the regular English keyboard. So hopefully, with everything that we looked at and we listened to the teachers, that we have picked the right model and moving forward for the teachers and their daily use. The one thing that they do not offer, and we'll use this out of our other general fund, is they do not come with DVD players, but a lot of software doesn't come on DVD anymore. So there is just a few teachers that will request a portable DVD unit for their classes, and those are very easy to get a hold of through our general fund to purchase just the small quantity that we need. Again, we did a 4-year protection plan, so these are all ready to go, so in case anything would happen to them.
And could you tell us the number of laptops again and the proposed amount of the purchase?
Sure. 300 laptops. The proposed purchase is $359,997.
And do we have a motion to purchase the same?
I move approval.
I'll second.
And a second, any questions or comments regarding the laptops?
When will these be ready?
Again, it's product in demand, so we're hoping that we'll receive them in before Thanksgiving. Actually, I'd love to get them before Thanksgiving so we can actually receive them and put an image on them, and then hopefully to roll them out to the teachers the first part of January. But as everything right now is delay on orders, and we're going to put this order in just as soon as possible, which is hopefully tomorrow after the board approves, and get the order in so we're on the list of receiving the laptops.
And these laptops will be paid for through the general obligation bond.
And this will take care of all the teachers now?
Yes.
300 of them will take care of every,
Yes.
okay,
Unless we have a count that I haven't been aware of, but yes.
okay. Thanks for all your time with this. And I did see on that, it said they'd be in here by October 9th, and I thought, there's no way they'll be here by October 9th.
Had to put something down, but
Yeah, I know, I was like, there's no
we're
way.
hopeful, we're wishful thinking is what we're doing,
Right.
so.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is consideration to approve the RBB guest Wi-Fi end user license agreement. Mr. Rowden, I believe you're up for that one as well.
Wow, man, what a night. So currently, we have a guest Wi-Fi service through our network. It is a little bit difficult to use and maneuver for visiting staff members or visiting guests, and it doesn't collect some of the data that is important for us to protect ourselves if something would happen. So our proposal is to have a written document that they read and accept. Hopefully they read it, but at least we have something documented of the do's and don'ts and just our regular policies and procedures. This new guest Wi-Fi will definitely be through our content filtering system, so that way they can't go to something they're not supposed to. The other thing is that it will collect their first name, last name, email address, and cell phone number. So we will have something to go back on if someone happened to see something that's on their device that they shouldn't have. We have something to trace down and offer to the legal department to pursue anything that would come up. It's just putting a protection layer for us as an organization and district to make sure we're doing everything diligently to stay compliant with SIPA, COPA is the one things that we really want to do. We don't want to lose any of our funding rates, and sometimes those are tied to policies and procedures, and we just want to make sure we're compliant. So it will be a lot easier for people to hop on. As tonight we had to help our legal, this will make it so much easier for her to click and type in a few things, and she's going to be on the road to internet services. So be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have a proposal to approve the end user license agreement?
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this something that's out there that you guys just attach and use it, or are you writing your own?
We wrote it, sorry. It was written and approved by Dr. Sanders and the legal
Okay.
department. So it's something that we made sure that was compliant with all of our rules and regulations.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 5-0.
Just
Thank
one-
you. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just one quick thing. I want to recognize Mr. Kirk. He's here in the audience with us. He's our new part-time tech support person, and we'll be starting tomorrow. So just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Kirk.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
joining
everybody.
us. We're glad to have you part of our organization. Thank you. Okay, our next item is the consideration to approve the certified physical therapy contract. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, so I'm recommending a revision to the contract for Sarah Casper, a certified physical therapist. The revision is that we're increasing her hours from 32 to 34 hours. The reason for the increased hours is the COVID requirements for cleaning equipment and also for her caseload. And Jennifer Anderson, our Director of Special Education, is here tonight if you have any questions about this contract.
We have a motion to approve the certified physical therapy contract.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on this? Nope, seems very understandable. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Our next item is consideration to approve revisions to the reopening school plan. Dr. Sanders?
Yes. So it's really amazing, and maybe amazing in not such a good way, about the journey we continue to go on as a result of COVID-19. We early on in July, we established 5 goals that would guide us in moving forward with our different plans that we would have to make. And if you remember back in early July, I was trying to get everybody to understand the mindset that we were going to have to be flexible. We were going to have to change our plans, and that's what we've done up to this point. The first goal was to provide the safest environment possible for students and staff. The second goal was to provide RBB students with the highest quality instruction. To provide a continuous learning plan that will sustain in-school instruction as much as possible. To provide a continuous learning plan that provides quality online instruction that promotes as much learning as possible. And 5, to provide a continuous learning plan that leads students and staff back to a sense of normalcy in the most efficient and safest way possible. And we are still working towards those 5 goals. That's where we want to be. And I really appreciate all the parents that are here and those who have spoken. I've actually probably met with most of them. And the couple that I haven't, I'm going to reach out tomorrow and see if they'd be willing to come in and talk to me sometime. Obviously, we are all in this together, and we're all learning. And so there are lessons learned and lessons that are being applied as we move forward. This is probably every superintendent in the world would be able to make this statement, but this is the first time I've ever had to lead a school corporation through a pandemic. So in the things that I've learned, the lessons that I've learned, first of all, there are many different and often conflicting factors that consider in developing the best plans to meet those goals. The many factors that I consider when figuring out our plan, and we had a plan that was approved on July 6th. We changed that plan right before the school year to go hybrid. We committed to that for the first 9 weeks, and now we're working on our plan for the second 9 weeks. And believe me, I've studied this and thought about this pretty much 24/7 for the last 6 months. And there are just certain factors that just like water and oil, they're not going to mix. So there are also many different and often conflicting opinions and studies. I've received so many different studies that they conflict with one another. They give you different information. I've spoken to a lot of different folks and really in discussions within my own family, there are differing opinions on what steps to take. I've tried to have the philosophy of seek first to understand, to gather as much information as possible. And so we have done surveys. But I realize that, you know, at this point, it's really a challenge to get a survey out there, give time for people to fill it out. So you can't always do surveys. You have to use your best judgment and your experience and your knowledge to make the best decision possible. I appreciate the parents who are here tonight, who have spoken to me, who have emailed me. I think RBB does a very good job. We try to work really hard to give our parents a voice and to be able to share their thoughts. We don't always agree. Some of the folks that are here tonight, we sat across at my conference table, and we don't necessarily agree on what the best course of action to take, but it's always very positive, and it's always very collaborative. And I don't know that every school corporation could say that. I actually value this time to be able to listen to what the parents have to say, and it does influence where we go. We also have to be prepared to adapt to an ever-changing situation. The plan that we might have started with in August, it's not going with the hybrid. The hybrid has served us well up to this point. As I've walked around the schools for the first part of the school year, I've been very pleased with looking and watching how students and teachers and parents and everybody have been working very hard. One of the issues I was worried about and actually lost a lot of sleep before the school year started was wearing of masks. And that just simply hasn't been an issue. Do we get tired of wearing them? Yes. Are we all glad to take them off whenever we can? Yes. But everybody's working hard to implement those safety measures. I think we've worked really hard to communicate with families. And I realize, believe me, I know with every email that I send out, I'm going to get a number of emails back, and that's okay. I like that. But there are obviously going to be differing opinions, and no matter what decision we've made, I always hear from a number of parents, and we've actually come full circle to the very beginning where maybe somebody was sending me some positive emails that they definitely agree with the decision to eventually they didn't like the decision. And that's okay. That's what helps us to move forward. I've always tried to make my decision in the best interest of our students, families, and staff. And so much of what we do at school and throughout school corporation, we do in the best interest of our students and staff. One of the responsibilities that I have as superintendent is during the winter to join our director of transportation in going out and checking the roads. And I don't have time to do a survey. I don't have time to talk to a lot of folks. But as I'm driving those roads, I get a sense, and I understand very easily a lot of times what the decisions should be made to keep our students and staff safe and going to school. And so I just really ask that our school community still continue to trust the decisions that I make as superintendent and know that I'm doing so in the best interest of our students and staff. I'm doing my best to lead our school corporation through uncharted territory. And I appreciate those who have given us a lot of support. So we come down to what's the best decision for the second 9 weeks. I wanted to do as much research, gather as much information as I could so that we could make the best possible decision. And one of the steps that we took was I identified several counties that had similar positive cases as Monroe County. And I reached out to the school corporations in those counties, and I asked them what they were doing for their plans. And the information I received has been very helpful in trying to guide what we're doing. I value the responses I got from these school corporations because they have gone down a path that we haven't gone down yet. All these school corporations that I contacted were back in, and they had they averaged about 5.6, I believe, cases across the 11 school corporations in terms of positive cases. So I think that carries a lot of weight, and as we decided to move forward with bringing our K-8 students back, I took a lot of assurance in these school corporations that have moved forward with being all in, and so far are doing very well. We took a look at, obviously, the dashboard that's on the Indiana State Health Department, and continue to monitor those numbers. I keep a spreadsheet myself with those numbers, and I look at the positivity rate for Monroe County just about every day. Might have to go back and get a couple days depending on how busy that day was. But one of the comments that I've received over last month or so was, what about our area? What about Richland, Bean Blossom Townships, and what's the data for that? And there wasn't a very clear way to be able to find that information, but what I did find was there's a site on the Indiana State Health Department website that you can enter the zip code, and it gives you the number of cases and the percentage of cases versus the population for that zip code. And so I took a look at that and looked at what the case count and what the percentage of the population that had a positive case for the area codes of all of Monroe County to compare, but specifically we added 47429, 47433, 47460, and looked at those percentages versus the zip codes for more of the Bloomington area. And that factored into our decision to try to go back more full-time. So I believe that if we did do a survey right now of everybody in the auditorium, I would say it'd be 100%. We need to get the students back to school as quickly but as safely as possible. And that's what I'm trying to do with the plan that I proposed last Friday. We are moving towards trying to get everybody back. But I have to do my job and do what, in my best judgment, is the safest next step. Do I want the high school back in full-time tomorrow? Absolutely. But I think my job is to make sure that we do that in the safest way possible. And last week, when we were trying to make those final decisions on what to do, what levels do we bring back? A lot of school corporations had the elementary back. A lot of school corporations had junior high and high school continue to do hybrid. But in talking to a lot of different folks, I came to the realization that I felt like our junior high students were struggling the most, not because their teachers weren't trying, not because they weren't trying or the parents weren't trying. There are a lot of factors that go into that. And we want our students to be successful, and so I really wanted to be able to address that and get our junior high back. But last week, for the numbers for the high school, that caused me to be, I think, conservative and cautious in our next step. An elementary student is very different from a high school student. And you have to factor that into the equation. The other piece of information was what I happened to see the governor's press conference, as Michelle mentioned, and that being that the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, other than college, if you looked at this graph that the board has, you could see from kindergarten up through 12th grade, the bar graph gets a little bit longer and longer and longer as you go up the different grade levels, with 19% of high school students who have tested positive. So, and then we had to factor in that we had 4 positive cases last week. So my recommendation is pretty much what I shared last Friday with K-8 going back 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, with Wednesday being e-learning day for deep cleaning. And for now, we continue the hybrid at the high school level. But I want to add something to my recommendation, and that's to ask the board tonight, as far as the recommendation for you to approve tonight, is I'd like to ask permission to be able to, as superintendent, to make that decision for the high school to come back at a time that I would think would be in the best interest of everybody concerned, continue to monitor the situation, and then at the appropriate time, just like going and checking the roads, when I feel as your leader that it's safe for the high school to come back, that I would make that decision. Now, naturally, I would consult with the board before I would do that. So that could happen sooner rather than later. I particularly don't like the having a matrix because I think there's so many different factors beyond the numbers that you have to consider. And I want to be able to use my judgment to do what's in the best interest of our students and staff at the time. But I think, and I think somebody referred to this earlier, as educators, we obviously have a responsibility and an obligation for the safety of our students. But we also have an equal, maybe, I shouldn't say equal because safety should be number one, but we also have a very important consideration and responsibility for the education of our students. And with every given day that our students are not in school, I do worry that they are falling further and further behind. E-learning, our teachers are doing an amazing job with e-learning, but we would also all agree that it's not the same as being face-to-face with the teacher. So you see, we do have much more in common than we have differences. The only difference in opinion is maybe when is it best to go back. And if we do go back, we do have to consider the idea of contact tracing and quarantining. We do not have an option. If we have a positive case, we are required to contact the health department, and we are required to go along with the contact tracing, and we are required that student or staff member has to be quarantined accordingly, either 10 or 14 days, depending on the situation. And so we have to consider that too, that if we bring everybody back, everybody needs to understand that there will most likely be more students who are quarantined, and we might be facing more positive cases just because we'll have more students in school. And we all need to do our part in wearing the masks and practicing good safety measures so that we can keep these kids in school as much as possible. So the part of the recommendation would be that we would designate October 2nd as the day that we would move forward with our plan for the second 9 weeks, and then implement that on October 19th. Since this is a big change, we told everybody who chose virtual that it was a semester commitment, but I feel it's only the fair thing to do to give everybody a chance to switch if they want to. And so they have until October 16th to make those changes. That was a lot of information, and I apologize for going on, but I had a lot to say. So what questions do you have for me?
I was requested to break this into two actual votes, one for grades pre-K to 8 and one for grades 9 through 10. So do we have a motion regarding the reopening plan for grades pre-K through 8?
I move approval.
I'll second.
And seconded. Any questions or comments on?
I want to add one thing if we can to what Dr. Sanders requested on the, and I think before you go, I think your
Can you speak
second.
a little louder?
Your second vote, you want to go 9 through 12, not 9
Yes.
through 10, right?
9 through 12.
9 through 12, okay. So on that is to, the school board authorizes Dr. Sanders to switch grades 9 to 12 to the 4-day week at the most appropriate time. While we're here this evening, do we want to go ahead and add, we also give him the authority to go to a 5-day week at K through 8 if things change for the better? We want to add that one extra step to that to simplify it
I thought we already authorized him to do that
on the K
previously.
through 8?
Correct?
Yeah,
He's-
initially, earlier on, when
Okay.
this all began, we did authorize Dr. Sanders to make decisions on the fly, so to speak,
Okay,
as
okay,
he
so we
needed
couldn't
to.
even go to the next step there.
I think he's just trying to concrete some of this in so that, to bring it out, to make sure everybody sees it. So he would, in my opinion of what we've already approved, be able to go to 5 days a week if he felt that that was appropriate,
Okay. All right, thank you.
without further board action.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on pre-K through 8? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now for grades 9 through 12, do we have a motion regarding the reopening plan for grades 9 through 12?
I'd move approval.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments on that?
I have a comment. I'd just like to say I really appreciate the parents who came out tonight and those who could not come or would like to be here and just don't know what to say. I feel you. I'm on your side, but there's only so much that we can do. I 100% fully support Dr. Sanders. He is the one who makes the decision. I think it's really critical. I was telling somebody earlier, I noticed a family walking the other day. The two parents and the older child looked like junior high age, no mask. But the two little bitty kids had their mask on. And so I think it's critical for parents to make our high school and even junior high kids, social life is just a big thing to them. And if they want to be in school, they've got to understand how important it is for them to live their life outside of school, almost like they're in quarantine. Be very cautious where they go, and it's just like they said, sharing water bottles and things that kids have always done. You just can't do that right now. And if we don't have cases, I would say that would be a good time to step in and let the kids go back. And I think it is way beyond critical to get our high school kids back in full-time.
Go ahead.
So I want to make a comment to the parents that have spoke. I am completely with every one of you. I have a high schooler. I completely agree with what you are saying. We need to get these kids back into school. And I agree with Deborah, but I also agree that these are high school kids. We need to give them due diligence that they are growing into adult life. They do have parents that guide them in decisions and understanding that we have protocols. It's not kindergartners. I have respect for 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, students who are going into adulthood to make decisions as well with their parents. And that's our job in the corporation, to help them make those right decisions when they're in our facilities. I am frustrated a bit myself with this plan. I want my high schooler back. She's due that, as well as the rest of our high school kids are due that. So, you know, the request of having both the K through 8 and 9 through 12 separated was my request, because I just don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's the right decision for me personally. So I appreciate each one of you. I've heard you loud and clear.
I want to thank Dr. Sanders for, and is this information the public can see all this about your zip codes and so forth?
I haven't shared it with anybody.
Okay, it's helpful if you want to speak with Dr. Sanders. It's interesting to look at the different zip codes and their percentages of positive cases, and the fact that 47404 is part of its RBB, part of its MCC. So that's a higher percentage, of course, but that's a percentage of our student population as well, as compared to, and I think it came up at a previous board meeting, they said, let's look at our part of the county. And the Ellettsville zip code and the Steinsville zip code, the Gosport, Spencer, is about half less cases than what it is in the 47404. But I think part of that's attributed to the Bloomington folks there. So thanks to them. I would highly, I know the other one that he mentioned was the schools he had talked to, and to take a closer look. And I think by reserving the option for Dr. Sanders to continue to look at this and how the other high schools are working within the area, out of 11 high schools that responded, to see how things are going within those schools, and possibly make the decision prior to the 19th for the high school to come back. So that would be part of my recommendation, that you take some more time to continue to take input on that. And while we're here, I saw some of the administrators are here. I didn't know if they would be able to just stand up and give a brief synopsis of how are the protocols going at each of the schools. I hear good things about the mask and the washing and so forth, but do you guys feel comfortable in each of your different schools that are represented here this evening? Mr. Siglin?
For the record, it may be best, and I should
Okay.
have done this earlier with others, to come to the microphone. I apologize.
And as he comes,
Not sure if our friends at CATS can pick up
okay.
or not.
As they come forward, I know that they've had 9 weeks to set the protocol in place as far as safety and so forth. And I also know there's a representative from the Teachers Association here tonight too. I'd kind of like to hear how things are going within each building individually as far as the safety protocol and social distancing and so forth.
Yeah, it's gone surprisingly well at the junior high. We've done, you see kids come in the mornings, our procedure now is to go straight to the first period class. It's a little bit eerie when you walk through the hallways because it's so quiet. It's not usually that quiet in junior high. But kids come in, they do exactly what they've been asked to do. When they're in class, they're still able to talk to each other. There's that 15-minute window at the beginning of the day where they get their breakfast. There's a little bit of social time. But kids get to where they need to go. They've followed all the protocols and procedures. Teachers clean or spray desks down at the end of the hall or at the end of the class. The next group comes in, they wipe all the desks down so they can be sure that they feel good about their area being cleaned up. We've got bathroom schedules in place where, you know, everything's just running like clockwork now. And so, like everyone else, I'm excited to see everyone come back in the building. That'll be good to see a lot more faces, or half faces anyway. It's
right.
It's real hard right now to get to know our 6th graders, which is a bummer, but you know, when we do walk around the classrooms at lunchtime, so we're eating lunch in classrooms, and that's going well as well. Vicki Coffey's done a great job. Gail Morris getting us set up to be able to do those things. But just talk to kids and see how they're doing, and a lot of them have adjusted to exactly what we've asked them to do, and they've done a great job with it. So getting on the bus, getting home, I feel like our kids have done a great job.
So they're prepared to take to the next step with double the attendance
I
because the
think-
protocols are in place.
Yeah, it'll be tough to, we won't be able to get to that 6-foot social distance recommendation, but we will be able to spread out as much as we possibly can. And I think that, our kids will do a great job. They've done a great job up to this point. I think they're eager to see their friends, the other half of the alphabet that they've really missed for the, I don't know, since March, but I think they're ready, and I think they'll do a good job. So.
And then as far as clarifying what one of the parents said tonight, the students are they on a block schedule to junior high as well?
Yeah, we're on a block schedule.
So they're just see the teacher one day a week?
Yep.
But
For
it's a more extended time frame.
85 minutes, so
85, okay.
it's really the equivalent of 2 class periods, what they would have seen.
Okay, I didn't want to make sure I understood that completely, so, okay. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Procedurally, it's going very well at the high school. The students are fantastic. They really are. They've been troopers. It's hard. It's hard for the students and it's hard for the staff. It's just not the same environment, and it's not what high school is supposed to be. I will tell you that it's a lot noisier on Thursday and Friday than it is on Monday and Tuesday, just because it's Monday and Tuesday. I can't wait to get the students back in. I wish we could all take the mask off so I could meet some of the freshmen and really know who I'm talking to. I will tell you that what the parents have said about what's going on academically, it's been a struggle. There's no doubt about it. The teachers are adjusting and trying to figure out. In fact, I've got about 15 notes laid out around my desk. So it took us about this long to kind of figure out what are some things that we can do to change, to look at. And I think some teachers are doing better than other teachers. We provide training. We've got both Megan and Jamie that have assisted in training the teachers. But there's some things that we need to look at and try to work on. It's just difficult to have students in class one day a week. We would love to be able to have 2 days a week where we ran a 7-period schedule, but that was virtually impossible. That was impossible with the lunches, and the lunches had to be in the classroom. So parents are 100% right. It's not great, and it's a struggle, and we're all struggling. I've said that me and my administrative work, my master's work, and teachers in their undergrad work and their master's work, we forgot everything we learned in how to teach in a pandemic. But we're sure trying our best to do our best to provide the best education we have. And we do have to rely on the parents a lot, and we have to rely on students to be independent. I will say this, I think that eventually for those students that are going to college, they're going to have learned a lot on how to prepare themselves. You do get less in college, so I think that, eventually that may benefit them. But I do look forward to the day that we can get everybody in class. I do want to say just one comment to those essential workers. Even in all the places that I go, and I know, and you go to Walmart, or you go to Lowe's, or you go to Menards, or you go, there's just people are behind a shield. And I know, Mrs. Jacobs, you're a nurse, and I know that when you went to school, you were preparing to be around it. And I think the concern is for teachers is that if we put 25 or 30 students in a classroom, there is no shield, there is no protection. They are in class with 25 or 30 students. And that's, I think, right now a little bit scary. So hopefully the numbers will continue to go down, and we can get all of the students back in school. I know I've got some combination of A through K, boyfriend, girlfriends with L through Z, so I know they're really looking forward to getting back together. But I do feel for the parents, and I appreciate the parents, and I do want you to know that I'm as ready as you are to get them back in school, and hopefully we'll be able to do that very soon. So,
Mummy arms. This is what our kids do as they walk down the hallway to make sure they keep their separation. They're called mummy arms, so you'll see kids walking. That's a little weird. There's any number of things. I really could spend a couple of hours sitting and talking about the changes that we see, but I want to focus on just a couple of things. Number one, we have the most resilient, most professional, most caring, most qualified for this moment teachers anywhere in the state of Indiana at Edgewood Primary School. They have done yeoman's duty and have just been consistently on top of it. They work together, they build off one another. I told Ms. Whitaker when we went into this, one of my biggest concerns is that we'll do virtual school so well we may never recapture some of those kids, and we're going to have to continue to offer a virtual option for years to come because they would do it so well, and I think you'll see that as we go along. An advantage for a primary school is the majority of our kids don't know any different. Our kindergartners have never been to school, and 253 students are enrolled in our kindergarten this year. So we have a tremendous number of kindergartners. Of course, a number of those are virtual, but we have just this incredible number of kindergarten students who don't know school any other way. So they're doing exactly what we ask them to do. We nail procedures all the time at the primary school. But the heartbreaking thing of it is these kindergarten kids don't know school any other way. This is it for them. This is all they know about school. And that's both frightening, heartbreaking, but also encouraging that we are protecting them to the full extent that we possibly can. Our first grade students only had 3/4 of kindergarten. They'd forgotten everything they knew about our procedures when they came back to us. We have to relearn procedures after Christmas break, for crying out loud. So they came back in as blank slates. They're very cooperative. Our second graders are great examples for all the kids in our building. Those are some important things. The way that it impacts the students is, again, I told you I could go on forever. One of the other things that I'm looking forward to is not doing 6 lunch duties a day. For us as administrators, our day kind of consists of drop-off duty, answer a few emails, make a few calls, sit in a class, do a pass-through, or as much as you can. At 10:30, you start lunch duty. At 1:25, you complete your last lunch duty. At 3 o'clock, you go out for pickup duty. That's not much of a day for an administrator who went into this business to be with kids. I spend more time with cars and car exhaust than I spend with kids in conversation. That's not the way I want to do school forever, okay? I've been in this business almost as long as Dirk, and I never imagined that this would be something that we would be doing. So we're running 75 to 100 cars to our building every morning, dropping off, and a like number picking up every day. That's a tremendous number of cars. But we have an efficiency. I'm very proud that Mr. Scholl and I, my counterpart at the intermediate school, have a system that works. We can do drop-off duty in about 10 minutes, 15 tops. We're faster than Starbucks. So we have all those things going for us, and we'll get through this. But one day, I hope that we'll be able to walk in the building without the masks, and then we'll actually be able to put an arm around a student who needs that contact, who can see the smile on our face and not see the smile in our eye, and feel the depth of concern and care that we have for them as human beings first, and as students who are beginning a lifetime career of learning with us. If you want more details, give me a call, I'll elaborate. But that's where we are right now at Edgewood Primary School. We're doing school the best way we can with the best people in the business, bar none. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Tucker, did you give him a head, let him know he was going to be talking? I mean, that was awfully well prepared.
Well, yeah.
He had 2 people in front of him to prepare.
I did really well in the speech.
Right. Mr. Yulls want to say, Mr. Yulls, would you like to say something on behalf of where the teachers are at? It's everybody working together, I know.
Do I just take this as my spot then? Is that
No,
right?
you will still get your.
You still get your spot,
Maybe
yeah.
I'll just jump ahead.
You got a 2-minute limit.
Oh, 2-minute limit, right. Well, I am known for being brief. A lot of thoughts swirling there. Taking everything in tonight, been teaching this. I'm a high school math teacher for some of you that don't know. Like everybody said, the best version is live to live, live face to face. There's no doubt about that. And teaching hybrid has been it's been hard. There's no doubt about it. We're teaching 2 sets of kids. It's hard. Love to see kids every day. We even talked about trying to see them 2 times a day, but the workload would have crushed us. But I keep telling my students also, kind of like Mr. Pittsford said, at least he made me think about, this is temporary. It's just hard when you don't know when the finish line is, obviously, but we are going to get there. There's just no precedent. There's no plan book on how to proceed. That's the hard part. So everybody's right, nobody's wrong. It's hard to make decisions. You're always going to have somebody question what you do, and I get that. And as the visitor comments made obvious, there isn't any right or wrong answer. We have our own perspectives. We have our own viewpoints, our own families, our own histories, our own jobs. And I'll be honest, we do need a lot of input. It doesn't hurt at this point because, again, there's no plan book. So Dr. Sanders, he came over last week, entertaining, we were chatting ahead of this decision. And, how do the teachers feel? I said, I don't really know. I've been buried, and I got my own little circle to talk to. And just to be, public, just to put it out there, it's not state secrets. It was about 3-1. Teachers wanted to stay hybrid. They had their own viewpoints too. They were worried about all the kids coming in, worried about their own safety. And I appreciate Mr. Ackerman's plug there. It is true. We weren't ready for that. It made us very nervous. A lot of teachers are like, I'm not sure about this. And we do want to see the kids, but at the same time, we don't. I do know this, they got to be educated, but we're worried if we go down, we won't have school. I know kids are going to be out, and we have a few kids out, but too many of us that go out, and we're going to be stuck in the mud, so to speak. We just want to be safe and have the best way to continue. So I think really, I've thought about this for 5 weeks, obviously. My wife's an elementary teacher, so I get a little bit of pushback over there, or at least a little bit, something to bounce off of. I think the right question to ask is, when is it safe? And again, still nobody has the right answer. We don't. So we just got to figure that out together and make sure we keep talking, and we will figure it out together. So here we go. And just I would suggest that the board and Dr. Sanders keep continuing to take input, and we'll go from there. Appreciate the time to make the comments.
Anything else, Mr. Tucker?
No, but just before the vote, I appreciate the thoughts of the administrators. I appreciate, Dr. Sanders, all the communication you provided the board through the last few weeks on this. And you need to take care of your own health because you got a lot of stress on your plate right now. So take care of yourself. And I do feel really good about the protocols that are in place. It sounds like everybody stepped up to the plate. And once after the October 19th, the K-8 goes back hybrid, that's going to be new excitement, but also new worries. And hopefully we can move forward with that. And then between now and then, I guess the vote on the table is that we do authorize Dr. Sanders to switch 9 through 12 to 4-day week at the most appropriate time. So I do encourage him to continue to look at that and make the best decision possible. And I do trust our teachers, administrators, and our senior administrators as well. So.
I guess it's to me. Well, do you have any comments?
No.
I had a couple quick comments. I do understand all the positions. This is a very, very difficult decision to make. It's not like a lot of the decisions comes before the school board. Is it A or B? And that's, is it yes or no or whatever. This is where along a continuum are you going to pick the plan to be when there are people on either side of that continuum that think it is either not enough for their protections for their children, or that it's gone too far and it's doing harm in other ways for their children. And it is difficult. My preference is to have the students back in school face-to-face as quickly as possible. I understand some of the concerns with 9 to 12 right now, those being some recent cases that we've had at RBB, and also the case distribution by grade level, 9 to 12 being more. But I do believe that if the students do the best that they can, as was said, to protect themselves and to keep the numbers low, I would anticipate a moving to a 4-day work week, 4-day school week schedule sooner than later. And that's one of the reasons it is on the plan, is that this is not a decision. It's on there because the thought is it's going to be sooner than later, and therefore we want to pave the road for that. At this point, I'm willing to lean on Dr. Sanders' expertise and all the diligent work he's done. I haven't done near the amount of work that he has done to make the decision, so I do rely on him. But is there anything further? The motion is to approve the second 9 weeks period plan for grades 9 to grade 12. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
The motion passes 4-1. And all right, our next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Sanders?
Okay, and once again, thank you for everybody coming tonight. And we're going to move forward as one RBB family. In the end, we will be making the best decisions for our students. So I appreciate all of you, the board, and all the parents. My report tonight is basically a congratulations to our Edgewood Early Childhood Center for earning the Level 3 Paths to Quality. Paths to Quality is Indiana's 4-tier rating system for early childhood centers, and levels 3 and 4 are reserved for the highest quality early learning environments in the state. So a lot of work has gone into getting to that point. A lot of planning and professional development, looking at the best curriculum that was possible at the preschool level and implementing that, and also providing resources for our classrooms. We have a lot of people to thank for this, the preschool teachers and assistants. Jennifer Anderson, who is here tonight because of the partnership that she initiated with the Community Foundation of Monroe County, for the great host of EPS, Brenda Whitaker and Jerry Pittsford, and the outstanding leadership of our director of the Early Childhood Center, Matt Wooden. Matt and his team will be here at the October board meeting to share more benefits, and we'll have a chance to congratulate them in person in October. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next item is RBBEA comments. Mr. Ewells, do you have further comments?
One thing, I got wrapped up in the reopening plan. Definitely want to, on behalf of probably every single teacher, thank you for the laptops that are forthcoming. I can't count how many times I've even heard just random people talk about them. I'm sure Dirk has too, probably every admin, when a teacher's brave enough to just go off about their laptops. So really appreciate it. I mean, it's hard to keep up on that stuff, obviously. So thank you very much on behalf of all the teachers.
Thank you, Mr. Ewells. Now we'll go to board member comments. I'll start with Mrs. Jacobs.
All right. Well, I want to thank again everyone coming today and speaking to us about the reopening plan. It's important for you to keep coming. It's important for you to keep talking to us, emailing us, messaging us. I've spoken to a lot of families, and I just appreciate each one of you and your children. I also want to thank the donors who always donate to our corporation. It's one of the most favorite things that I have seen on our agendas is seeing the donations that come through for our students. And I just want to say thank you to Dr. Sanders, the principals, teachers, staff. I know you guys are working extremely hard. It's very evident in what I see in, the work that's coming across for my children. You guys are amazing. You really are. I just can't tell you the amount of stuff that I know about, and there's a lot that I know that I don't know about that you guys are doing behind the scenes, and I just appreciate you all very, very much. And I think that's it.
Mr. Darnold.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo what Angie just said about our leaders. Our building principals and assistant principals are fantastic. And I want to assure the parents that are here tonight that these fellows are taking it serious. And thank you for coming. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your interest. It seems like we don't get a lot of input from the public, so we need that. And I really appreciate you coming tonight. And thank you, Mr. President. That's it. So.
Mrs. Mary.
I too would like to thank the donors. This is my last year on the board. I'm retiring after 12 years. And I recall back when I first came, I started asking for donations. I don't know how many people remember that. Every meeting I asked for donations. And now we mention it every now and then, but it seems like we don't ask because people are just donating. And we have had so much donated to this corporation. It is so appreciated. Even the little things, people look at it and they see a need. They send their $20 or $500 or whatever in for that need. And it's extremely appreciated. It covers a cost that sometimes it's a struggle to get into the budget. So we really appreciate our donors. And again, thank you to the families that came.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker.
Again, I echo what the other board members said. Thank you for coming out this evening. I appreciate everybody's input this evening. And I think if I read the paper right, congrats to a couple parents that were here, and I think their students are Lilly finalists. Mr. Ackerman, is that right? We have some Lilly finalists at Edgewood this year? Okay, I think I saw that in the paper, so congrats to those folks as well. And then one thing I didn't want to say, Mr. Kerr, before we voted was my biggest worry right now is fall break. Is because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on at fall break, kids traveling and so forth. And personally, I'm not afraid of it because I take precautions, but I think everybody needs to continue to take precautions when they're out and about. And I'll leave it with this, a little story from a couple weeks ago. We were playing in Indianapolis, Washington, here at the high school in football. And I went down and looking around at the crowd, which was completely weird too, because everybody's all spread out on different sides and so forth. And I went over and talked to Indianapolis, Washington's athletic director, who I'd known from way back in the day. And he was one of 4 fans there for Indianapolis, Washington. He said it was a tough ride down that night. They got there about an hour and a half late. But he was lamenting on the fact that he never even heard of Ellettsville. And he was impressed, like how he's impressed with our young men and women there at the school and our facilities. And it was kind of neat just talking to him, knowing where he came from and the schools that he Indianapolis, Washington is a tough place to go to school at times, he said, and the facilities aren't near what we have here. So it just really made me feel good about the RBB school community and the good things that we have going on. And towards the end of our conversation, he said, "That's what I mean." And then we looked out, and one of our kids, and the game went really well for Edgewood that night. One of the kids was hurt, and our football players went up and helped him get up, and he said, "That's the kind of sportsmanship we need." So that was just a cool story. That's just part of our whole process here, but I really appreciate what everybody does.
Thank you. I too want to thank all those who spoke tonight, and I did want to increase the amount of time to make sure when there's large numbers that want to speak, which sometimes we do need to limit that, but on important critical decisions like this, I was glad to waive that rule some to give everybody a chance to say what they believe they wanted to tell us. And it is obvious, I believe, that the board and administration has listened to what you had to say. So again, thank you for coming and sharing with us. I will just hope that we can get to where we all want to be very soon, and that this all gets under control very quickly. So have a wonderful evening. This meeting's adjourned.